Hello, in this video we will talk about one of the special Spark Forms Builder controls, which is the Web Connector control, and how to use it in your SharePoint forms. You can integrate your form with external data sources and line of business such as HR, financial, CRM, or any external line of business your organization may need to connect with, by using Spark Web Services Connector Control, and Spark Internal Functions. Users can easily select items from the web services data source, to which the control is connecting and reflects their data on forms controls. This control is beneficial for SharePoint environments that require robust integration with external lines of businesses, through their web services and APIs. Integrating your list or library with other external line of business applications data sources, and populating their data to your form has become a very easy task. You just need to drag the control, configure it and build a simple rule to populate the retrieved data to your form's controls. Let's add the Web Connector control to this form. From the list at the top, click on Spark Forms Builder to open the canvas to design the form. As you see here, I've previously designed this form to add the Web Connector in it. If you are interested in how to customize the design for the form in detail, you can watch the tutorial video listed in the description below. From the Toolbox panel, under Integration, drag and drop the Web Connector control. Modify the Web Connector control properties. From Control Settings, we are going to connect the Web Connector control with the web service data source that we want to retrieve the data from. As we see here, in the Web Dialog setting window, you can integrate the form with a web service data source, using REST or SOAP methods. We are going to select REST type. There are three request methods: GET, PUT, or POST. We are going to select GET. Enter the URL in which the web service is located. Specify the authentication method: no authentication, Windows authentication, Forms authentication, or impersonate identity. In our case we are going to select Forms authentication. When selecting Forms authentication, a new icon has appeared, click on it. Enter the username and password. This attribute is enabled only if the selected authentication is Forms. You can specify the request header, content type, or request body, this is optional. Then enter the request timeout in seconds. Specify the format of data to be retrieved, JSON or XML. We are going to select JSON. You can execute and test the specified settings by clicking on Run. The data will be retrieved on the result panel. Type the node name of the selected format data. Here we are going to type part. Then type the field name that you want to retrieve data in the form based on it. Here we are going to type item. One of the Web Connector control advanced features is that you can bind and represent the data according to your selection and configuration. You can choose to render the control to be a searchable dialog, checkbox list, drop-down list, or even a radio buttons list control. We will see these cases together. First, we will select the searchable type. We have here a checkbox to display all the data in the search dialog. If the search box is empty or not, we are going to select it and see how it works. Then click on OK. Now let's map the Web Connector control with the SharePoint field, to save the control's value in the SharePoint list alongside the other data. Choose whether the control is required or not. OK, after configuring the Web Connector control, we are going to use the Generate Web Connector Data function, to retrieve all the related data, like the manufacturer, the model, and the cost for the selected item, by the Web Connector and set them in the form controls. To add the function we have to add a rule first, select the item control. Then, from the top ribbon, click on the control rules. Create a new rule. Modify the rule name. Select rule type action. And apply the rule on change. Then add the condition that will apply the function only if there is an item. In the action text box, we are going to add the Generate Web Connector Data function. From the right panels, under Functions, At the search box type generate web connector data. And here it is. You can have more details about the function from here. As we see here, this function needs parameters control ID, retrieved fields, controls to fill. To add the parameters, there are two ways, by the wizard, or manually. I am going to add them manually. Select the web connector ID. Item. Type the array that contains the name of the web service fields that you want to retrieve. Here we are going to retrieve the manufacturer, model, and cost. Then type the array that contains the controls that we want to map with the retrieved fields array. Then click Save. Let's now see how it works. From the top ribbon, click on Preview. We are going to select the item by click on the search icon. OK, this is the search pop-up dialog. As you see, here are the search fields that we have in web service data. We see also here all the data that exist in the web service data, because we have selected the option Show All Data when search box is empty. In our case the data is small, I can select the item directly, but in case we have large data, we can search by item, or model, or any search field that we have here. If we uncheck the checkbox that displays all the data, the search dialog will be like this. You can make the search that you want. Let's select item. Then click on OK. As we see here, the item data have been retrieved in our form. Now let's change the query type from searchable to a drop-down list to represent the data in drop-down list format. Go back to the web connector settings and change the query type to a drop-down list. As we see here, when selecting the drop-down list query type, there are some features are enabled, like Show Default Caption. You can select it if you want to add default text at the top of the values of the drop-down list. The other feature is to select whether to execute this query on load or on change. If you select the execute to be on load, the system automatically creates a new rule for executing the web query for the control. Let's preview the form and see how it works. As you see here, all the items that we have in the web service data are represented in the drop-down list. Now we want to retrieve the rest of the data for the selected item, using the getWebConnectorData function, and set the values to the form controls. Back to the design mode. Select the Web Connector control. Create a new rule. Modify the rule name. Select Rule Type Action. And apply the rule on change. Add your condition, if the item is selected. In the action text box. First, we are going to use the setValue function. As we see here, this function needs two parameters: the control ID, which represents control, and the values that we are going to retrieve from the web service data, by using the getWebConnectorData function. Let's add the function, and set the parameters. Select the control ID, manufacturer, and the value that we are going to retrieve from the web query, by using the getWebConnectorData function. So again, from the right panel, function, search for getWebConnectorData. As we see here, this function needs two parameters, the control ID, which represents the web connector ID, and the web service field that wants to retrieve its value. If this parameter is empty, then it will return an array of all values of the selected record in the control. Select the control ID, item, and type the web service field manufacturer. We are going to repeat these steps for all the data that we want. Then click Save. OK, let's preview how it works. Let's select the item. And here are the item data retrieved in our form. You can use the list of checkboxes, or the radio button instead of the drop-down list. We just watched how it's easy to add and configure the web connector control for SharePoint forms using Spark Forms to integrate your list or library with another external line of business applications data sources. How you can use rules to consume all the selected field values returned from the search dialog. Also, how to generate your web query on form load, or by any control in your form. Follow us to learn more about advances used for SharePoint and Spark Forms. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe, and if you have a comment please write it down. Thank you.